The reason why you feel stuck, why you feel depressed, lethargic, why you feel like your life lacks purpose, and you find yourself doom scrolling or jerking off to porn, other vices like this, usually comes down to one thing. Your potential creative energy, it's stifled and repressed, and you're leaking it into draining activities. In this video, you're going to learn how to liberate your creative sexual energy so you can live life with more passion, more joy, to be more of yourself, and to bring that spark back into your life. Let's get into it. I'm Jonathan White. I've helped thousands of men from around the world learn to master their sexual energy to create an epic life. Make sure you hit subscribe to stay notified when new content like this is released, and make sure you get my free ebook in the description of this YouTube video, which will teach you 3 techniques to attain legendary ejaculation control. So sexual kung fu is about more than just having better ejaculation control, having amazing sex, having non-ejaculatory orgasms. Of course, these are an important part of it, but what it really is about is cultivating your sexual energy. Why? Because what your sexual energy really represents is your core, creative, driving force as a being, as a living, breathing human being, as an individual soul in this universe. It is your power. It's your creative power. And when you can harmonize and consciously direct the flow of that energy, there is absolutely nothing you cannot accomplish. I mean, think about the things you've done in your life driven by horniness, we could say. I remember in my teenage years going to great lengths, spending hours when my parents were out of the house, hook up the family computer to the phone line. We had dial-up internet back in the days. I'd spend hours just like browsing, looking at porn clips, short pixelated video clips, all we had back then. I invested a lot of time and energy into doing that. And of course, chasing women, trying to get love, trying to get sex, etc. So I'm curious, think about some of the things that you've done in your life, like the driving force that sexuality has had in your life. Think about that. Just reflect on that. And now imagine that that same force is driving things you actually want to amplify in your life, things you want to juice up with that energy. Think about that. What would that look like? Well, maybe it looks like you're fueling your ambition to pursue the career you've always wanted to pursue, to go to the gym and start sculpting your body, putting it into your art, having more creativity, having more passion, putting it into your relationships, whatever it is. So this is the potential of working with your sexual energy. And this is no new thing. When you look back in history, whether you're looking at mystical traditions, Tantra, Tao sexual practices, or looking at more modern entrepreneurs, great thinkers like Napoleon Hill, even Nikola Tesla, they understood the importance of sexual energy. And a lot of athletes, people like Muhammad Ali, who would go weeks without having sex before his fights because he wanted to store up his pure vital energy so he could crush it in the ring, and he sure did. This is what we're talking about here, okay? Just some context. But the truth is that what this all comes down to is turning your body into a sexual energy pump. And what that really means is that for most men, the genitals and the sexual experience, it's almost a purely external thing. For us, our penis is hanging off the body. It's kind of out here, so it's easy to see how we disconnect this from the rest of our body. But what we want to do is reconnect. Most guys are just, we're cut off at the lower center here. We're stuck in only releasing this energy outwards. So we never really build up enough of it to have that much potential, we could say. We're leaking it constantly. So what we aim to do in sexual kung fu is to stop the leaks and to redirect this flow upwards. Reestablish a connection between the genitals and the heart, so that love is brought back into it, because lust alone will never bring a sense of completion. Lust will always pull you back into it, essentially. You're always wanting more when it comes to lust. And I'm not saying lust is wrong. Lust is a part of the picture. It's just one ingredient in the sexual alchemy. But if we engage from it alone, again, it's always going to drain us. It's always going to lead to this outward direction. So when we bring the heart engaged back into it, it reestablishes this connection between genitals and heart, which means that not only do you become more creative because this sexual energy is mixing with your heart energy, and it creates this radiance. It raises the vibration of the sexual energy to make it more pure, more light, more gentle and loving. And you find yourself feeling more creative, more connected to others, to yourself. This will significantly deepen the intimacy you're experiencing in your relationships, which is what I think we all really want. True sexual fulfillment only comes from deep connection, deep intimacy. And I'll talk more about why men are blocking themselves from this in just a moment. And even further, we connect this energy up into the brain, into the crown, to this higher energy centers. Sexual energy becomes this full body experience. And of course, the benefits being that you can have full body orgasms, like when you're having sex, this is all pumping, this is all running, it's all connected. So sexual connection is not just felt in the genitals. You're experiencing connection on all these levels. Of course, the sexual level, we'll just pretend there's another body here, okay, for the sake of me not having to draw another ugly torso. Heart connection, online. Here's the really potent one. Spiritual connection comes online. So these are really higher octaves, we could say, of expression of this base sexual energy. At the lower energy center, we experience it as pure lust, pure desire. It's really the connection to bond physically and to procreate. But at the higher centers, it's experienced as deep love, deep, intimate love. And then deep spiritual connection, a sense of oneness with the universe. I know it sounds hippie, sounds woo-woo, but really is what happens when this comes online. And so you see how the sexual energy is like a fuel that gets all this happening. And in this process, the sexual energy itself, it's changed and transformed. It's transmuted into a higher, more pure, more light form of energy. Your consciousness changes. You're no longer like running around stumbling in the dark like, whoa, what am I gonna eat today? How am I gonna get my rocks off today? Just release some stress. I'm just kind of bouncing around, just trying to survive moment to moment. This changes you. Now, with your sexual energy pumping, with your heart open and online, with your consciousness elevated, you see the bigger picture. You see the bigger picture in life. You start to see who you are as a being in relation to everything else. You start to see, oh, maybe I have a purpose in this world. Maybe it's not just about going from fix to fix, just paycheck to paycheck, just, go out, party, have fun. Life becomes a bit deeper. You want to create. You become a creator. You become a god in the process, essentially, okay? This is your creative potential, is your sexual energy. And when it's fully online, by engaging with the rest of the body, things just kind of open up for you in the world. We want to talk about manifestation, law of attraction. Sexual energy is one of the engines behind it. But it can't just be 100% woo, like you sit around thinking, okay, I want this and I want that, and it's just going to come to you. It's not how it works. You got to go out and take action. But again, the driving force of the sexual energy, your intention and your imagination, the things you create in your mind, the concepts, the ideas, the things you want to create, these things become more clear. And then your intention to somehow create these things in the physical plane becomes amplified by this juicy sexual creative power. So now you start to put effort into creating these things. It doesn't really matter how, you know what I mean? It's like you have the intention, you have the end goal, and you can't help but end up there in some way. As long as you're holding that intention, you're taking action towards it, a path will open up for you, okay? So this is where things get really deep, right? Something else that's really interesting here is that this process is natural for us as humans. At least it should be natural, but it's not because of some certain dynamics, okay? So I'm gonna make a drawing over here to kind of represent what I'm talking about. We have a container. This is kind of this egg shape. It's meant to be a container. And in the base of this container, we have a fire, okay? This is representing our body, this container, and this represents our sexual energy, our sexual drive, which is rooted at the base. When we come into this world, when we're young, as children, we're wide open. We don't have constrictions. We don't have limitations. We just are. And our energy flows freely. If you spend time with kids, they're super creative. They're super imaginative. You give a toddler a broomstick and they can be happy for hours. How many adults would be like that? You know what I mean? Because we're so rigid now. It's this free, open space. This energy flows freely into all aspects of our being, and we express it freely. It's uninhibited. And that is really our creative sexual energy just fully expressing itself without inhibition. But what happens is that, when did this all begin? Who knows? When the world became so closed down and tight-assed. At some point in our early development, we start to get constricted. Our parents say, no, don't do that. And a lot of times there's good reason for it. But sometimes it's just our parents' inherent limitations they're putting onto us. Like, I wasn't supposed to do this, so now you're not supposed to do this. And these things get passed along. And I think, going on this topic of sexual energy, a very big point of block becomes the sexual energy itself, specifically our genital region. I can only imagine that, and I will know soon because I'm going to be a father here in about 5 weeks. As I've been reading about child development, it sounds like it's a natural thing for developing babies and children to explore all aspects of their body, including their genitals. And of course, when a lot of parents see this, they're gonna say, no, like, you're not supposed to do that. Obviously, in our society, it'd be inappropriate in public and things like that. But just in general, it's like, that's a no zone, just don't touch it, don't look at it, don't think about it, all right? Don't touch it. And so that creates a constriction. the child starts to realize, oh, there's something wrong with this part of my body. Don't touch down there, don't breathe down there. It becomes closed off. And even deeper than this, we start to get told, hey, your voice is too loud. I don't want you to express your anger. I don't want you to cry. All these things, all these natural expressions that we have start to get constricted. We feel that it's dangerous to do them. So what do? We create these barriers. We create these layers of tension. We create this prison for our energy. Common areas of tension here, I'll move over here now. This whole lower region, specifically the diaphragm, we get really tense and tight here. The pelvic floor is a major region, the belly area in general, the throat as well. So we create all these constrictions so that this flame that wants to burn and be expressed through our body, it's repressed now. So it's like we've shoved it down into this, little burning ember. And fortunately, we tend to have one little outlet for it. Obviously, we have various outlets for it. Like we can still speak and act and behave, but like our expression gets a lot more limited. Everything's really stifled. It's like, okay, maybe we have one little path here that it can kind of move through. The little paths that are open, these become our personality patterns. Very constricted, very, okay, I can only be like this and I can never be like that. Can you relate to this? I used to have a lot of constrictions in the way that I held myself, the way I spoke, the way I interacted with people. And, fortunately we have one little area here where the energy can express out. Because what happens when you have a fire burning? When you have this creative sexual energy burning, it wants to expand. That's what sexual energy wants to do. It's always expanding. And when you have a system that's extremely closed down, it cannot expand. So it's always seeking an outlet. And a simple outlet for men is to just ejaculate it out. Just, okay, the constriction, tension, that's really uncomfortable. Okay, quick release of that. And as soon as they feel that sexual desire, that tension, they must release it. So what you're doing is depleting this energy. First of all, you're programming this one-way path out of your body. You're never able to harness, build up and work with that energy, mobilize it. You can only release it outwards. And from my experience, and according to a lot of the ancient traditions, excessive ejaculation is draining your life force essentially. And you cannot do this forever without consequence. Like, yeah, you can get away with it a lot in your teenage years, but if you keep doing this over and over and over again, like frequent ejaculation, it will accelerate your aging process essentially. So this is why this is a problem, okay? And this is also why men develop issues like premature ejaculation, a lot of forms of erectile dysfunction. Basically, these come down to an inability to be fully open with your partner. And there's various layers of imbalances. And ultimately, like you take a system that has there's all these blocks, there's all this tension. There's not a whole lot of places for the energy to move. And the only place it can move again is these very constricted personality expressions you have, and it can easily ejaculate out. And so what I've noticed is that a lot of men who have premature ejaculation, a lot of men who ejaculate quickly, there's a lot of this constriction. And I talk about the nervous system a lot, the sympathetic, the fight or flight response. Of course, this is part of it because this is a survival response on some level. This constriction, it's a self-protection because we think these things are protecting us from the world, but they're irrelevant now in our adult lives. We're still functioning like toddlers, like scared toddlers in our adult lives. And so what this creates is a lot of neurosis, a lot of dysfunctional patterns. Emotionally, mentally, creates all these anxieties. And so ultimately what happens is a man with this pattern, he gets into a relationship, things get intimate. What is intimacy? There's a vulnerability with sex. There's a deep vulnerability. I mean, you take your clothes off, you get naked. At least I do when I have sex. I don't know, maybe some people leave their clothes on, I don't know. But that's vulnerability. But you're still actually wearing all these layers of protective armor. You're wearing like bulletproof vest. So you're actually not fully open there. And what that leads to is a serious disconnect between you and your partner. And so there's two common patterns here. One is the people-pleasing pattern. Coming back to the childhood thing of like a fear of displeasing your mother because maybe she'll stop feeding you, which usually isn't the case, but we don't know that as children. We're young and vulnerable. And so subconsciously, that's one aspect of the scenario you're replaying when you're getting intimate with a woman. It's like, if I do something wrong, like I'm gonna die. It's not true, but that's literally the feeling of it. That's the somatic expression of it in your body. Just tense and tight and complete fight or flight. And so as long as it's the end of the world if you don't please your partner, then you're always gonna be loaded with this tension, this fight or flight state. And I think another aspect of this can be the fact that there's a deep fear of vulnerability. You don't wanna fully be seen. You took your clothes off, but you're still wearing all this body armor, energetically, physically, muscular tension. And so you ejaculate very quickly because on a deep subconscious level, you just want the experience to be over with. So you can go back to like your safety of being disconnected from everything around you. And so just some examples of how these things show up. as sexual dysfunctions. And ultimately, how this fits together into what I was talking about earlier is that we want to create this re-engagement of energy throughout the whole body. But that's difficult to do with all these blockages, okay? So this is what a lot of the work of sexual kung fu is to do, is to release these dysfunctional patterns. And slowly but surely, you start to wear away these things over the years. And once again, you know, your energy can express itself. Maybe you get a little opening here. Oh, look, I got a new pathway. My energy can kind of flow up here and find some expressions. And over time, you open up more and more and more. This is the goal, is, you know, create more and more opening. And it kind of looks like this initially. It's like, I'm blocked here, but there's a little space here and here. But over time, I do believe that we can get back to the state of pure openness, pure spontaneous creation and creativity and expression. And obviously, we need to have some rules. We need to have some structure, because we can't just be going out in public doing whatever the hell we want. You know what I mean? If it violates other people's safety, or this is a whole other topic here with this kind of thing. But at least we can get a degree of freedom back within our body. And so one thing I'm also trying to point out here in this video is that when we talk about overcoming sexual dysfunctions, developing sexual mastery in sexual kung fu, and of course, the ability to transmute your sexual energy, people often think like, okay, I just need like a single technique to do this. And sometimes, you know, that works for people. Like I can say, go do the testicle breathing practice, which is a practice that teaches you to start circulating this energy through the body. But at the same time, you're doing this practice, you have all these constrictions and layers, and like it's true that the practice itself can help to open up a pathway through that. Traditionally, there's a reason why there was entire systems that had many different techniques, many different avenues of training to address just what I'm talking about here, to train systemically, to open up over time, release these constriction patterns, and to have more balance and relaxation in the nervous system, and a free pathway of expression, to feel safe just being yourself. This is a big focus of the system. So again, it's not like you have to get 100% of these blockages removed before you can get anywhere. Not true at all. I certainly still have my own blockages I'm still working on, but I've come a long ways. I mean, you can look at my videos from when I first started this channel 9 years ago, and you can tell that I was a bit more restricted back then than I am now. It's a process. Ultimately, it's this openness, this ability for the whole body to communicate freely, the whole nervous system to communicate freely. When you have this happening, there's no issues of ejaculation control. You'll last as long as you want because the sexual energy is moving up. When your heart is online, you're feeling deep, intimate connection with you and with your partner. The deep love is an important ingredient of this. When that's online, that is creating this interaction between the sexual energy and the heart energy, lightening the sexual energy so that you no longer feel a countdown to ejaculation and an overly lustful response that forces you to ejaculate. You feel a light, full body rising of the sexual energy. So I know I opened up a lot here, and I can't address all this in one video, but I do want to share some things that I think will be helpful for you. Okay, some resources. This is exactly what I'm training to do in the sexual kung fu system. Specifically, there's a practice in what's basically level 2 of my sexual kung fu system, which is the sex god course. It's called inner dissolving, and it teaches you how to bring the mind into the body, to discover these blockages, and like hands holding an ice cube melting into water and then dissolving it into steam. It starts to release these blockages. As you do this, memories arise, events from earlier on in your life will arise, feelings, emotions emerge, and then deep releases can happen. It's a very powerful practice, but it's not a beginner practice per se. There's a lot of mind and body development that you must go through and to be able to do this properly. And that's why the starting point of the sexual kung fu system, really the full-on training, is the multi-orgasmic man course, which is like the first level of dealing with these blockages and constrictions. You know, things like clearing negative emotions, opening up the flow of energy in your body, releasing nervous system tension patterns, etc. So it's what I'm training to do in the sexual kung fu system. So those of you who want to go all the way, that's going to be for you. But the simplest thing to do, start to observe your tension patterns. Like you can lay on the ground and just start to progressively relax, starting at the crown of your head, your face, your shoulders, etc., going down your body. You can even look up progressive relaxation practice. There's going to be dozens, hundreds, probably thousands of them on YouTube. I could make one, I suppose, but like it's such a like basic level practice and so many people have done it. I'd be happy to if you guys really want me to, but again. And so just spend 5 or 10 minutes laying on the ground, deeply, deeply relaxing. But then you can zone in on certain areas of tension that are really strong in your body, and just breathe into those areas. And as you exhale, relax. Like, how deeply can I relax this tension? Maybe it's tension in the face, the shoulders, the diaphragm's a big area, pelvic floor as well, and just melt and melt and melt those areas. And then pay attention to that later on in the day? Like when you're interacting with people, do you tense back up? And notice that. See if you can release that tension, let it go. So that's something you can work with. So what I recommend you do now is watch another video I made on the topic of sexual energy transmutation, where I break it down in a different way. And that video will give you even more practical implementations of transmuting your sexual energy. So I'll put a link to that video, check it out. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to make more videos about releasing these constrictive patterns in your energy system so that you can be more of yourself, essentially. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you get my free ebook through the link in the video description below for techniques to master ejaculation control. And best wishes to you on your journey, my friend. Take care.